you and fear and respect you, and fulfill others. So I think with what you have done, we're going to take your work out of very machine. He said, Lord, you help like Harvey, you help me so here at the church. I pray you guide for us very soon and maybe in the church too. We've been loving it for a while now. I just pray that you would guide there. And And see there's free hot peppers in the back. It reminds me of a lesson that I learned in wisdom and in being where God wants you to be and not slacking on it. I was first year, I don't think I was even married yet. I was working at a church in Illinois, and I was part of the I wasn't working in the Wednesday night kids program because I was teaching school all day week long, and I had volunteered to help that night, and so I wasn't in the service. I was helping with the kids program, and someone had asked me to take something from one room to the other side of the building. It was a big building, and so I was walking back there, and I was taking my time on my way back, and I walked by this little kitchenette that they had, and there was this countertop that in the fall there was always free vegetables. Every service, somebody would bring something in there, zucchini, squash, something or other. I had just that afternoon ate like one of those little bags of sweet bell peppers, small ones, different colors, and I'd eaten all those peppers. And I looked in there, I saw some peppers there. I'm like, oh, that looks tasty. And I was supposed to be getting back to where I was supposed to be, but I was slacking a little here. And so I decided to just go in there and just grab one of those little bell peppers and stick it in. It should have kind of been a clue to me because they weren't different colors. They were all one color. They were all orange. And I was like, well, some of those were orange. It's just sweet pepper. And I stuck the whole pepper in my mouth and realized this is not a sweet pepper. It was a really good habanero, but I had not, stuck the whole habanero in my mouth before. And my wife, Dana, found me about 5 minutes later. I had my head in the sink with a sprayer in my mouth, it wasn't working. And be where you're supposed to be is the moral of that. So all of that rabbit trail before we even started. Proverbs chapter 15, let's look at verse 12. Proverbs 15, 12 through 24. We'll see if we can get to these 12 verses so far with rabbit trails. Anyway. Bible says, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go unto the wise. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. The way of the slothful man is as an hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is made plain. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother. Folly is joy to him that is destitute of wisdom, but a man of understanding walketh uprightly. Without counsel purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established. A man hath joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good is it? The way of life is above to the wise, that he may depart from the hell beneath. We look at Proverbs, we look at a wisdom and how to be a wise person. And again, it's not, I need to hit all these steps and then I'm wise. It's what are the habits of a wise person? What do wise people do? I need to do that right now. I don't have to have a certificate saying I'm wise to start doing the things that the wise people do. I just need to do it. And today I want to look at these verses and some of the values of wise people. What do wise people think are important to note? And sometimes we spend a lot of time on the things that really are not as important in God's book as we put them. And understanding wisdom, sometimes it is a decision very clearly of good and bad, black and white. This is a bad thing. This is foolishness. I just need to avoid it 100%. This is a good thing. Go to it 100%. But what if you have like 10 good things and you're trying to say, hey, which is most important? What values drive us to determine which of these things I'm going to? Maybe it's not an outright sin, but
if I'm valuing something, that's going to tell me how I make a decision when I have all of those things, okay? And we can try to vilify everything and say, well, here's the horrible sin in this. Or we can just say, look, there are some things. We just have to see what is the best decision. What's the decision God wants us to do? The first value here we see in verse 12 is the valuing correction, okay? A wise man values the correction that they get. And this ties into some of the earlier verses we talked about last week. Verse 10 said, correction is grievous unto him that is forsaketh the way, and he that hateth reproof shall die. Verse 12, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will go unto the wise. And so a foolish person, whenever someone reproves them, corrects them, it grieves them, and they begin to hate. Yes, that's a strong word. It's not strongly dislike, it's hate the person who is correcting them. Okay? Wise people, they want that. They want the correction because they understand, listen, here's where I am. Where I need to be is not here. And anybody who's going to help me get to where I need to be, I appreciate that. And wise people, they value when they are corrected. And one way to really kind of look at this ourselves is just to think back at the last time you were corrected by someone. Okay? How did you feel about that person who made those corrections to you? I know the initial reaction, at least for me, my guts tightens, my muscles, my forearms tighten, okay? I've got to be careful because my speech is going to start tightening, and my body, my flesh doesn't like correction, okay? But we need to be able to say, hey, I want to be wise. How can I train myself to value that correction? Anybody have any thoughts on that? How getting yourself to the position where you value correction? Okay.
Because I can relate to that, because, a lot of us don't like to be critiqued, even though it's valuable and you need
right.
it. And you know it about yourself, because you know yourself better than anybody, and when somebody points out what you already know, it's not pleasant. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, is that pride in yourself, or what is that?
There's pride is in it. There's growing pains in it. Now, I think some things, there's that instant reaction, and then you start thinking about it. And, is that instant reaction in your flesh, and then how you then, okay, my body is telling me fight, flight, freeze mode. Because we have that. We have that nervous system of our body that will, in certain things, will react before our mind has had time to think about that. I did a little experiment with this once at a youth activity when I was a teenager. My pastor asked me, we were doing a campfire out behind the church, and my pastor asked me to go get something out of the shed, and I grabbed the kerosene lantern that we had, or a propane lantern, and I was carrying it like this. I walked into the shed, and there was a bunch of stuff on shelves up here. I wanted to get the light up there, so I held the lantern up like this by the handle. Of course, it's swinging by the handle. And the next thing I know is, why is the lantern on the floor? Ow, my arm hurts. And it was the top of the lantern had hit my arm. And your spinal cord can make some decisions without sending to your brain. Let go of whatever is burning your hand. Okay? And I registered from my eyes that the lantern hit the floor before I registered from my arm, hey, something really hurts. Then I look over there, I was like, oh, cool, I got a trapezoid-shaped tattoo now on my arm. Oh, wait, there's a lantern that hit the ground. This is not good. They did not burn the barn down. But our bodies will have this fight, flight, freeze. And so you might have this, and it has been trained over decades of us training our bodies to fight it. I do think that if we train our bodies, it's hard. It'd be like relearning how to ride a unicycle or something, to train our bodies to react a different way. Because a lot of our life, we've trained our bodies to hate the correction. And I think we could eventually train it, but here's where the flesh and the spirit, and as soon as then, okay, we've got our bodies tensing, now a second later, now it's actually hitting our cerebral cortex, we got to make some decisions on this. Okay, am I going to make a decision while my body is tensed? Or am I going to say, hey, I need to chill before I make a decision on this? And training myself to that, saying, hey, okay, now I'm calm. This person is giving me something that's valuable. I like that. I'm going to be grateful to that. And I'm going to tell my body that I'm grateful for that. And it takes a while for us to step down, but I think there is two parts of it. I mean, if we continue in that, it's definitely pride. Where, okay, yeah, I'm going to, now that I know what's going on, I'm going to tell my body to keep doing the fighting. I'm going to feed that anger with there. But I think we do have that natural thing, and it comes from our sin nature. It comes from us. We've all been there where we're prideful and we really didn't want to receive that correction. And so our body's trained to react a certain way.
The reason I'm kind of, because lately I've been very mindful of certain faults that I've been mindful of. So when somebody mentions it, that feeling that lately it hasn't been so much that I'm being corrected as that I missed it, you know what I mean? And so when you do it, it's almost like guilt, like, oh man, yeah, you caught me in it again and I missed it myself, you know what I mean? So it's not, you know.
Right. Sometimes there's the anger. It's like, okay, I'm angry at my failure.
Lately, it's been more of that. Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not upset that you mentioned it. I'm upset that I didn't catch it. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. And I'm not saying I'm not a prideful guy, but lately it hasn't. You know, so that's why I ask. And you know, is it always or what? You know, it's just I'm trying to grasp because you know.
Sometimes we make conscientious decisions to put ourselves in places where we're gonna be sharpened. We're gonna be corrected, okay? It's like, this pastor keeps preaching at me, but I keep going back. Well, why are you coming back? Is there some wisdom about that? It's like, hey, yeah, I keep getting my toes stepped on, but I know that that's good, so I'll keep going where I'm gonna get my toes stepped on. I can go to the other church where they'll make me feel good every Sunday. But is that really helping? So, a wise person values correction. I want to look at the next few verses, and I'm going to put this out there. A wise person values feelings. Okay? I'll read these verses here. It says, verse 13, a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. Okay? So all these verses talk about the heart. And two of them specifically say a merry heart. Another one, it says the heart of someone who has understanding is seeking knowledge. But a wise person, they recognize that, hey, yes, I could get over things, but how I'm feeling matters. If I am angry, I need to do something about that. If I am totally depressed, I need to do something about that. It's not a matter of, hey, I'm just going to sit here and wallow in my self-pity because I'm depressed. I'm not going to sit here and stew in my anger because I'm angry. And it's the verse right in the middle there saying, the heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge. If we have something that's making us not of a merry heart, and that countenance, that's what our face looks like, okay? The way we are on the inside is going to show up on the outside, okay? There are some people who teach and hammer it into church people, saying, you've got to show a smile on your face even if you don't feel it. Oh, we're at a funeral. Don't cry. You need to show yourself strong. Who are we showing ourselves strong to? And what is the purpose of showing strong at a funeral if it's not a strong compassion for the person who just lost someone? Feelings are important. And it's not that sadness is a feeling that should never be there. A wise person understands that, hey, I can't just ignore this sad countenance. I've got to seek understanding about it. What is the deeper understanding? And when we seek understanding, okay, let's say someone we love died. Okay, what's the deeper understanding we can look for? Okay, well, that person loved us when we were there. We had so many years with that person. I can be angry at God for the years I don't have, or I can be thankful to God for the years I did have. If this person is saved, well, praise the Lord, they're saved. Is it something that I'm going to miss them? Yes. I'm not going to deny that I'm going to miss them, and I'm not going to deny that that makes me sad. And if I need to cry, I'm going to cry. If I'm with somebody else and they're going through that feeling. And a wise person, they're respecting of feelings. It's not just respecting their own feelings, but it's respecting others' feelings. And saying, you know what? The person over here who's crying, okay, I care about their feelings. I'm going to seek to understand. Okay? Now, are there people who cry about things that, especially to us, don't mean much? There's a sermon I've taught, well, I think I had it as a point in a sermon, out of Ezekiel, where God is pronouncing judgment on Israel because they're weeping for Tammuz. Now that was a form of worship to the god of harvest and of plants. But what I brought up was, hey, what are we crying over? Okay? There's some things that would need to be removed from our life because they're bad for us, and we cry over that. Okay, you know what? We shouldn't be angry at God for that. We should be grateful for the correction. But when a wise person is going to look at someone who's going through an emotional, hard thing, okay, and understand, hey, they can't make a good decision right now where they're at emotionally, okay? If I want to go in there and I'm going to go talk to them with logic and reason and sound doctrine, is any of that sinking in? Is any of that going to sink in? They're not necessarily someone who has a heart that has understanding, that wants to seek understanding and seek knowledge. They are not someone who has a merry heart with a cheerful countenance. They are not somebody who has a merry heart that's going to give them a continual feast. They are feeling afflicted. And when you're afflicted, it's that state of heart where you feel like everything is falling down around you or on top of you, okay? Afflicted it's not something that happened to you, but it's a feeling that you have that things are always happening to you. And if you are an afflicted person, all of your days, every day is a bad day, okay? Because that's the state of heart that you're in, is I'm an afflicted person. And it's a mind shift. Wisdom is going to say, hey, bad things are happening. I need to seek knowledge about this, okay? My car keeps not working. I need to take knowledge about this. What? They're telling me I'm supposed to change the oil? I don't like that correction. Or wait, am I going to be wise and say, maybe I need to really hear that correction? This is a real expensive lesson saying, when that little light starts flashing at me saying oil pressure low, and I keep going, and then I hear that loud sound, and then my car's done, you mean I'm supposed to listen to that correction? Okay? And a wise person, they're taking these afflictions that are happening to them and say, hey, how can I grow from this? Was it something that I did wrong? Was it something that the situation that I'm in requires me to act differently? Maybe it's not that there was something morally wrong with what I was doing, but it's just what I was doing isn't going to work for this situation. This always worked when my kids were 3. I would just give them lollipops, and they were all happy. Now they're teenagers, and I'm giving them lollipops, and they're still crying at me. Why isn't this working? Okay, well, the situation has changed. And so taking correction, I was like, hey, I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling afflicted. My heart is down. I need the knowledge from this. What can I grow from this? And when I come to this point where it says, hey, I can choose if I'm going to be one of the afflicted, where I just go through my life feeling like everything's going to go bad for me. If I go through my life feeling like that, it is. All the days of the afflicted are only evil continually. Every day is a bad day. Okay, I think of Eeyore. How many of you have ever seen Eeyore? Okay, right. A good day. If it is a good day, which I doubt it, it's going to be a bad day. A little cloud follows him around. Okay. And in this verse, the first time it's not the first time you read a verse, but how many of you ever could say, hey, there was a day that I discovered a verse, or a verse just, boom, was illuminated to you? And can any of you guys say that you know some days, some verses that just, it hits you? It was my first year teaching. I wasn't married yet. I was living in the basement of an evangelist that worked at the church. And I'm trying to get out to go about 10 miles to get into the school. Well, he's got some acres, and his acres are all hills. And I had backed my car up kind of the edge, and the back wheels were down a little bit, but I didn't think it was an issue. But it rained and rained that night. So I'm getting this little 86 Cutlass that I had with totally bald tires. And it's mud everywhere. And I get in the little car, nothing happening. Okay? Now, it was the 15th of the month. I had read this chapter that morning, and I had actually written that little verse. I was doing the RU journals at the time, and I had the little daily meds card, and I had put this verse on that med card. It was sticking in my pocket. Okay? Totally forgot about it. Mud flying everywhere, a car digging itself deeper in there, and it just wasn't going. And I called the principal and said, hey, I'm going to be late. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to try to figure something out. And eventually the evangelist heard lots of noises in his yard. He came out, and he had he did children's ministries, and he had one of those big tug-of-war ropes in the back of his RV. And so he tied it to his hitch and found a place to tie it to my car. And he was able, with his RV, to eventually pull me up. And I was all flustered. I was dressed in that. This would have been my teaching uniform for that school. I had to wear a shirt and tie. I was wearing that, and it was speckled with mud everywhere. And I was all frustrated coming in there, and I could even remember the place where I was getting on the off-ramp to head up to the church. And I remembered that piece of paper. I didn't have to look at it to know exactly what it said. All the days of the afflicted are only evil continually, but he that hath is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. It's like, am I going to go today as an afflicted person, or today as a merry heart? And as I'm pulling into the school, everything's flashing through my lesson I'm going to be teaching that morning. And what just happened, I was supposed to be teaching a physics class about inclined planes. If you have a frictionless plane and you have an object on that frictionless plane, how much force do you need to apply to pull it up that frictionless plane? And it's just like, oh, I'm actually going to get their attention here. So I just walk in. The principal did the opening devotion stuff. I just walk in. I got mud all over me. I'm like, so let's assume that you have a plane going down here at 30-degree angle, and you have, let's say, 86 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme sitting on there. Let's say that weighs 2,000 pounds. And then you have a friendly evangelist with an RV here with a rope connected to the front of the car. How many pounds of force need to be applied to this rope to pull this car up this slope? And it was a great lesson, and it was just like, okay, this was a really good day. It could have been a really bad day, but that verse changed it that day when I realized, hey, you know what? I can learn something from this, okay? Lord, why am I stuck in the mud? Oh, I needed to be able to actually communicate through to my students. That's why. And maybe he was teaching me that I shouldn't grab that much of a junky car when I bought that car. But a wise person is going to value and recognize, be aware of where they're at emotionally and where others are at emotionally. And they're going to seek out knowledge of it, okay? You need to be able to be, they call it emotional intelligence, EQ. There's an IQ and EQ, two tests that they do for people. IQ, hey, can you put together these puzzles and solve all this, do this? And you can have some people who have like a super IQ, they're the brainiacs who nobody wants to talk to because they're like in a different dimension solving some equation at the time. But then there's people who have the emotional intelligence, the EQ, where they can empathize with people, they can connect with people, and people say, I can really connect to this person. Okay? Now you should have some of both, okay? It shouldn't be, I can really socialize, but I can't tell you what 2 + 2 is, okay? You do need both, and a wise person is going to value that, okay? And with that too, let's look at these next few verses in the last 5 minutes. Verse 16 through 18, I think we'll end after that. It says, verse 16, better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Better is a dinner of herb where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. Looking at those 3 verses, what's something that a wise person values if they hold on to those 3 verses? Better is little with the fear of the Lord than the great treasures and trouble therewith. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is of slow anger appeaseth strife. A wise person is going to value peace. Okay? Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. They shall be called the children of God. And we understand peace as the fruit of the Spirit, peace. It's not the absence of trouble around us. It's the presence of God. And the wisest person is going to be as close to Jesus as they possibly can, because that's going to be the ultimate source of peace in their life. If I have Christ with me, with the kid's song, with Christ in my vessel, I can smile at the storm, smile at the storm. When you realize that Jesus is in the boat with you, nothing can go wrong. And you can have that peace. A wise man is not going to go out there seeking a fight. So some of the best generals are the ones who can win the war without fighting a battle. It's not the ones who can fight all the battles and win all the battles. It's the ones who can win the war without fighting the battles. Okay? It's like, well, there's no glorious victory. Right. And there's not a whole lot of heroes' funerals either. And there's not a whole bunch of grieving widows. This is a much better outcome than a glorious victory is peace. And a wise person is going to value peace. Look what it says. It says, better is the fear of the Lord than little with the fear of the Lord than great treasures and trouble with therewith. Now, this is valuing, I'm more concerned with what God is going to say about me than all the treasure in the world, okay? And that's going to lead to peace here. The love of money is the root of all evil. But it just goes right along with the next verse. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith, okay? So, do you want the salad bar or the prime rib? Okay? Here's your choice. You can go in the salad bar with friends who care about you, who aren't there to attack you, or you can have prime rib with a bunch of people who have got a bone to pick with you. Which would you like? Okay? Here's your meal. Now, some people say, I like salad anyway. But listen, do we eat food just because of the food, or do we usually eat out because of the people we eat out with? Okay? I love going to a Chinese buffet, but can I tell you, I can't go to a Chinese buffet by myself. It's just like, what's the point? I mean, yeah, I can eat a lot of food, but The joy of it for me is when I get to take my family in there and I see the smiles on their faces and they're all excited and we get to have just a good time together. That's why I would want to go. At Americans, we eat socially. That's one of the ways we do it. But he's saying, look, you can value having a lot of stuff, but if there's trouble with it, listen, it's better to not have any of that, but to have peace. It's better not to have any of the riches, but where you can stand before God with a clean conscience, than have all these riches, but, okay, I've got trouble with God, number one. I've got trouble with other people. I don't have peace. Hey, I'll give away those riches. I'll pay those riches to then have peace with God. And some people who they realize, they sought for riches and they got the riches and they realized all the troubles that came with the riches. And they're more than happy to get rid of it. I thought it's just interesting when the IRS decided something, and when I was doing taxes back in college, that all these people who had put overseas accounts in the Cayman Islands or Switzerland and stocks in other countries where the U.S. wasn't tracking them, so that they could channel all of their wealth and investments away so they wouldn't get taxed over it, so they can have a little bit of extra money. And they have all this riches, but the fear that came with that of, hey, I snuck one over the IRS, I think. Hopefully they'll never audit me. Hopefully they'll never find out about those other accounts. When the IRS put out a thing saying, hey, it's going to take a while, but we can eventually catch you. Here's what we'll do. All of you who've had these foreign accounts and you've been cheating taxes to the tunes of millions of dollars for years, if you voluntarily report and pay the taxes you were originally owed, there will be no charges. Within a month, they had $8 billion come in. How many people learned the hard way the lesson, better is little with the fear of the Lord than great revenue and trouble therewith? They're like, hey, it is so worth it. I can pay half of my net worth and not have a noose around my neck? Absolutely. I know one person who just by accident, he just hadn't gotten his taxes filed for a lot of years. Then he got scared and didn't file them for the next several years. And, his business is personal. And, when I finally tallied it up and it's like, okay, well, you've got about $300,000 you owe personally. And he was not making very much money in a little tiny town. He was so thankful. He's like, it's done. That's just the amount. And the IRS has set it up a deal thing where they won't kick me out on the street. They won't close down my company as long as I get enough to live off of and give them everything else that I make. They're happy. And he was so happy. He's like, the weight is off because I don't have that trouble that's with all those great riches. And wise people value peace over those other things. Peace where I don't have the police hunting me down. Peace where I don't have somebody fighting me. It says, a wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. When we have this opportunity to have strife come in, okay, a wrathful man, it's like, all right, I'm ready for a fight. Let's go. They want to have that fight. That's what they are. But other people will say, hey, you know what? I see that you're getting ready for a fight. My body, like we were talking about earlier, when your body starts to feel the tightening, tensing, okay? A wise man's going to learn, how do you control that? How do you calm yourself down? Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, I kind of have the habit of, when I do that, I'm taking this deep breath. I can get a lot of words in a prayer in one breath in my mind. Dear Lord, help me with this right now. I don't know what to do. Lord, help me. And having those prayers, just taking that moment to pray. Dear Lord, help me. I don't know how many times I prayed that when there's a situation. There's a lot of times I should have prayed that I didn't. But we need that, and if that's what it takes to calm us down when we're ready to fight. Hey, but they cheated me on something. Okay, well, however much they're cheating you on something, I'm not saying walk away or walk over thing. Okay, is you being angry gonna help the situation? Is you losing it and yelling at them going to help the situation any? No, it isn't. Okay, can you resolve the issue without losing your temper and your testimony? Okay, yes, you can. You can go take care of it, and you can resolve it peacefully, calmly. And we need to be able to do that. And we need to value peace, value people's feelings, recognize our own feelings, okay? If your body's saying, I want to punch the guy, you need to recognize that. That doesn't mean give in to it, okay? You need to say, hey, why is my body doing this? I need knowledge. Lord, help me now. How can I deal with this? How can I control this, right? And value correction. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for your goodness, your grace to us. I pray that you help us to value what you value and value what wise men value, and help us be open to the correction that you give us in life. And when we are feeling down, help us to seek knowledge of what that means and what we need to do with it. And I pray you get the glory for it all. In Jesus' name, amen.